Imagine waking up one morning to discover that your country is slowly disappearing, not because of war or an earthquake, but because the ocean is quietly swallowing it. No explosions. No dramatic movie scenes. Just the tide creeping a little farther inland every year. For one nation, this isn't science fiction. It's reality. Today, we're traveling to one of the most vulnerable places on Earth, a country that scientists say could become uninhabitable within this century if sea levels continue rising. This is the story of Tuvalu, a tiny Pacific island nation that may become the first country to lose its habitability because of climate change. At first glance, Tuvalu looks like paradise. Crystal clear blue water, white sandy beaches, palm trees swaying in the breeze, coral reefs filled with colorful marine life. But beneath this beauty lies a serious problem. Tuvalu is one of the lowest-lying countries on Earth. Its highest natural point is only about 4.5 meters, or 15 feet, above sea level. Most of the country sits much lower than that. In many places, the land is only a couple of meters above the ocean. That means Tuvalu doesn't need a giant tsunami to flood. Sometimes, an unusually high tide is enough. Tuvalu is made up of 9 small coral islands and atolls scattered across the Pacific Ocean, roughly halfway between Hawaii and Australia. Together, they cover only about 26 square kilometers, making Tuvalu one of the smallest countries in the world. Around 11,000 people live here. For generations, families have built their lives on these islands. Their traditions, language, songs, and history are deeply connected to this land. For them, losing the islands wouldn't just mean losing homes. It would mean losing part of their identity. So why is Tuvalu at risk? The biggest reason is rising sea levels. As Earth's climate warms, glaciers and ice sheets melt, adding water to the oceans. At the same time, warmer seawater expands, taking up slightly more space. The increase seems tiny each year, just a few millimeters, but over decades, those small increases add up. Eventually, coastlines begin to change. For countries with mountains, this creates challenges. For a nation sitting only a few feet above the ocean, it threatens everyday life. Storms now push seawater farther inland than before. Roads flood more often. Waves slowly erode the coastline. Some beaches have already become noticeably smaller. The ocean doesn't need to permanently cover every island to create a crisis. Frequent flooding alone can damage homes, schools, roads, and farmland, making life increasingly difficult. Another major problem lies underground. Most island communities depend on freshwater stored beneath the ground. Rainwater slowly filters through the soil, forming a layer of freshwater above seawater. But as sea levels rise, saltwater pushes farther inland. Eventually, it contaminates these freshwater supplies. When that happens, drinking water becomes scarce. Plants struggle to grow. Food production becomes harder. Even if homes remain above water, everyday life becomes much more difficult. Climate change also threatens Tuvalu from below the surface. The country's coral reefs act like natural barriers. They absorb much of the wave energy before it reaches shore. But warmer ocean temperatures place corals under stress. When the water stays too warm for too long, corals bleach by losing the tiny algae that help keep them alive. If the heat continues, many corals die. Without healthy reefs, larger waves reach the islands directly, increasing coastal erosion and flooding. The weather is becoming less predictable as well. Some years bring long dry periods that reduce freshwater supplies. Other years bring heavy rainfall and stronger storms that overwhelm low-lying communities. Small island nations often have limited resources to recover from repeated disasters. Each flood or drought places additional pressure on people trying to remain in their homes. One striking fact about Tuvalu is that it contributes very little to global greenhouse gas emissions. Its carbon footprint is tiny compared to large industrial countries. Yet it faces some of the greatest risks from climate change. It highlights how the impacts of global warming are not shared equally. Some communities experience the consequences long before others. People often ask a simple question: why not just build seawalls? In some places, seawalls have helped reduce flooding. But protecting an entire country is extremely expensive. Even strong walls cannot solve every problem. Saltwater can still seep underground. Storm waves can sometimes overtop barriers. Coastlines continue changing. And maintaining large coastal defenses requires money and engineering expertise that small nations may struggle to provide. Some islands have experimented with raising land levels by adding sand and improving coastal protection. These projects can reduce certain risks, but they are costly and only protect limited areas. They cannot completely eliminate the challenges created by rising seas and changing weather. Because of these growing risks, Tuvalu has become one of the strongest voices in international climate discussions. Its leaders regularly speak at global climate conferences, urging countries to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Their message is clear. For Tuvalu, climate change isn't just about future generations. It's about protecting people living there today. The country is also preparing for an uncertain future in remarkable ways. Tuvalu has announced plans to digitally preserve its history and culture. Important buildings, landscapes, historical records, and cultural traditions are being recreated in digital form. The goal is to ensure that even if parts of the islands become uninhabitable, the nation's identity can still be preserved for future generations. Migration has become another difficult reality. Some Tuvaluans have already moved to countries such as New Zealand and Australia. But leaving home is never easy. Imagine knowing that the place where your grandparents lived, where your family celebrated holidays, and where generations are buried may no longer be safe in the future. Moving means leaving behind more than a house. It means leaving memories, traditions, and a way of life. Of course, the future isn't completely certain. Scientists continue studying how coral islands respond to rising seas. Some islands have naturally gained land in certain places as waves move sand and coral sediment. However, a larger island doesn't automatically mean a safer island. Communities can still face flooding, saltwater contamination, damaged infrastructure, and freshwater shortages. The important question isn't only whether land remains above water. It's whether people can continue living there safely. The future of Tuvalu depends on many factors. How quickly greenhouse gas emissions are reduced. How fast glaciers and ice sheets continue melting. How much sea levels rise over the coming decades. And how successfully adaptation efforts protect communities. Every fraction of a degree of global warming matters. Tuvalu isn't the only place facing these challenges. Other low-lying island nations, including Kiribati and the Marshall Islands, face similar concerns. Many major coastal cities around the world are also investing billions of dollars in flood protection as sea levels continue rising. Climate change is a global issue. Tuvalu simply happens to be one of the first places where its effects are becoming impossible to ignore.